The hunt begins. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Endeavour as it dropped out of hyperspace near the Zarian system. The year was 2394, and humanity had been expanding across the galaxy for over a century. Maria had spent 15 years exploring the unknown reaches of space, but nothing had prepared her for what waited in this distant star system. The Endeavour was a mid-size exploration ship with a crew of 42 humans. Their mission was simple: survey new worlds for potential colonization and resources. Maria had done this countless times before, and she expected another routine mission mapping planets and cataloging minerals. She was completely wrong. The third planet in the Zarian system appeared on their screens like a blue-green jewel. Initial scans showed breathable atmosphere, abundant water, and what looked like massive artificial structures scattered across the surface. Dr. James Reed, the ship's xenobiologist, nearly fell out of his chair when he saw the readings. Maria walked over to examine the data herself. The structures were enormous, covering areas the size of small cities. They were arranged in complex geometric patterns that suggested advanced intelligence and sophisticated engineering. After decades of finding nothing but bacteria and simple organisms, this was humanity's first real evidence of advanced alien civilization. The decision to investigate would haunt Maria for the rest of her life. She chose a landing site near the largest structure complex and took a team of 12 people down to the surface. The artificial constructs were even more impressive up close. They rose from the landscape like crystalline mountains, their surfaces covered in flowing patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. But these were not cities or monuments. They were hunting grounds. The Zephyrians emerged from hidden passages as Maria's team explored the outer edges of the complex. They were tall, elegant creatures with silver skin that reflected light like polished metal. Their movements were fluid and predatory, like great cats stalking through tall grass. Most disturbing of all, they wore what appeared to be advanced hunting gear and carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. The lead, Zephyrian, stepped forward and spoke in perfect English, though its voice carried an odd musical quality that made the words sound like a song. The translation implants in their heads must have been incredibly advanced to learn human language so quickly. "Welcome, humans," the creature said with what might have been a smile. "We are the Zephyrians, and you have just become our most interesting prey in over 1,000 years." Maria reached for her sidearm, but the aliens moved faster than anything she had ever seen. The Zephyrian leader covered 30 feet in what looked like a single flowing motion and knocked the weapon from her hand, with a gesture that seemed almost casual. The other aliens surrounded her team with the practiced efficiency of experienced hunters. "You mistake our intentions," the leader continued. "We do not wish to simply kill you. That would be wasteful and boring. You are intelligent prey, and intelligence makes the hunt so much more ... satisfying." The Zephyrians had been hunting for millennia. They traveled between star systems in search of species that could provide them with challenging prey. They had hunted the crystalline beings of Altair Prime through cities of living glass. They had tracked the shapeshifters of the Vega Collective through forests that existed in multiple dimensions. Now they had discovered humans, and they were delighted with their new quarry. The capture was swift and efficient. The Zephyrians used weapons that fired beams of coherent energy, but these were set to stun rather than kill. Maria watched helplessly as her team members collapsed one by one, their bodies paralyzed but their minds still alert. She was the last to fall, and the alien leader looked directly into her eyes as darkness claimed her. "You show promise," it whispered. "This will be a hunt to remember." Maria woke up in what could only be described as a maze. The walls were smooth and tall, made from the same crystalline material as the structures on the surface. The passages twisted and turned in patterns that hurt her head when she tried to map them mentally. Hidden cameras tracked her every movement, and she could hear the sound of alien voices commenting on her actions, like sports commentators describing a game. She was not alone in the maze. Other members of her crew had been scattered throughout the complex, along with humans from other ships that had apparently discovered this system before them. Some had been here for months, surviving by learning the rules of the hunt and avoiding the areas where the Zephyrians liked to release their predators. Dr. Reed found her on the second day. The scientist had managed to survive for 3 weeks by studying the alien technology and learning how their hunting system worked. He explained that the Zephyrians did not simply turn them loose and hunt them down. They had created an elaborate sporting environment with rules, challenges, and different levels of difficulty. Their artists, Red explained as they crouched. In a hidden alcove, they see hunting as the highest form of creative expression. The maze changes configuration every few days, and they introduce new challenges to keep things interesting. The whole system is designed to give us just enough chance to make the hunt exciting for them. The Zephyrians released their hunting. Parties in waves. Sometimes it was a single hunter stalking individual humans through the maze. Other times it was groups of aliens working together to corner multiple prey at once. They used a variety of weapons and techniques, always adapting their methods to provide the maximum challenge and entertainment. Maria learned quickly that survival depended on understanding the alien mindset. The Zephyrians were not trying to kill all the humans immediately. They wanted a good hunt, which meant their prey needed to survive long enough to provide sport. This gave Maria time to study her captors and look for weaknesses. She discovered that the Zephyrians had one crucial blind spot. They had been the apex predators in their region of the galaxy for so long that they had never faced organized resistance. Every species they hunted either died quickly or ran and hid until they were eventually caught. None had ever turned the tables and begun hunting the hunters. Maria had been a military officer before joining the exploration service. She had commanded troops in the colonial conflicts on the Outer Rim and knew something about tactics and warfare. More importantly, she understood that the best defense was often a good offense. Using salvaged alien technology and materials scavenged from the maze, Maria began preparing her counterattack. The Zephyrians had made their hunting ground into a perfect environment for predators. But Maria realized it could also be turned into a trap for unwary hunters. She started with simple sabotage. Camera systems mysteriously failed in certain sectors. Energy conduits developed problems that caused lights to flicker and fail. Hunting weapons were found damaged or missing from their storage areas. The Zephyrians initially assumed these were random malfunctions in their ancient systems. Then Maria began taking trophies. The first Zephyrian hunter she killed was young and overconfident. It had been stalking her through a section of the maze where the walls were lined with reflective surfaces. Maria used the reflections to track the alien's movements and set up an ambush at a narrow choke point. When the hunter rounded the corner, expecting to find cornered prey, it instead found a human warrior who had turned the hunt around. Maria stripped the dead alien of its weapons and equipment, then dragged the body to a central area where the other hunters would be sure to find it. She arranged the corpse in a deliberately theatrical manner and left a message. Written in the alien's own blood, the prey has become the predator. The effect on the Zephyrian hunting community was immediate and dramatic. These creatures had never lost a hunter to their prey. The very concept violated everything they believed about the natural order of the universe. Their perfect hunting preserve had become contaminated with the possibility of death. Hunt Master Vexera, the leader of the Zephyrian expedition, called an emergency assembly of all hunting parties. The alien commander was ancient even by Zephyrian standards, and had participated in hunts across dozens of star systems. Never in thousands of years had prey turned on their hunters with such calculated efficiency. This human is an aberration, Vexera announced to the assembled hunters. It has violated the sacred protocols of the hunt and must be eliminated immediately. All other prey activities are suspended until this asterisk. But Maria was just getting started. She had spent weeks studying Zephyrian hunting patterns and learning how their technology worked. Now she put that knowledge to use in ways the aliens had never imagined. The maze became Maria's ally instead of her prison. She knew every passage, every hidden alcove, every blind spot in the camera network. When hunting parties entered her territory, they found themselves being stalked by a predator who understood their methods better than they understood hers. Maria picked off Zephyrian hunters one by one, using their own weapons against them and turning their hunting ground into a death trap. Each kill was more elaborate than the last, designed to spread fear and confusion among her former captors. The hunters became the hunted, and they did not like the experience. The psychological impact was devastating. Zephyrians who had spent centuries as apex predators suddenly found themselves looking over their shoulders and jumping at shadows. Their perfect hunting preserve became a nightmare where death could strike from any direction at any moment. Dr. Reed and the other survivors watched in amazement as Maria transformed from hunted prey into humanity's first interstellar predator. She had taken everything the Zephyrians taught her about hunting and turned it back on them with devastating effect. But the real hunt was just beginning. Asterisk. The hunter becomes the hunted hunt. Master Vexera stood in the command center of the hunting preserve and studied the tactical displays with growing concern. In the 3 weeks since the human had begun her campaign of terror, 7 Zephyrian hunters had been killed and 3 more were missing. The alien commander had lived for over 2,000 years and participated in hunts on 47 different worlds, but had never encountered anything like this. The human called Maria Santos had violated every law of predator and prey. Relationships that the Zephyrians held sacred. Prey animals were supposed to run, hide, and eventually die. They were not supposed to study their hunters, learn their weaknesses, and then systematically eliminate them one by one. Hunt Master, reported Sub-Commander Zelenara, one of Vexthera's most experienced lieutenants. The human has struck again. Hunter Corvish was found dead in Sector 7, arranged in the same ritualistic manner as the others. Vexthera examined the surveillance footage from the incident. The human moved through the maze with the confidence of someone who had made it her home. She set traps using salvaged Zephyrian technology, created diversions to mask her movements, and struck with the precision of a master assassin. Most disturbing of all, she seemed to understand Zephyrian psychology better than they understood. Hers, she is learning our weaknesses, Vexthera mused aloud. Each kill demonstrates greater knowledge of our hunting methods and behavioral patterns. This human is not just surviving in our preserve, she is turning it into her own hunting ground. The psychological impact on the Zephyrian hunting community was becoming impossible to ignore. Hunters who had stalked prey for centuries without fear now moved through the maze in groups, constantly watching for ambushes. The very concept that prey could become predator was shaking the foundations of their culture. Maria Santos crouched in a ventilation shaft and listened to the alien voices echoing through the maze below. She had learned enough of the Zephyrian language to understand their hunting communications, and what she heard filled her with grim satisfaction. They were afraid. For the first time in their species' history, the hunters had become the hunted. She had spent the last month studying every aspect of Zephyrian technology and behavior. Their weapons were sophisticated, but followed predictable patterns. Their hunting tactics were effective against fleeing prey, but poorly adapted for dealing with organized resistance. Most importantly, their entire culture was built around the assumption that they would always be the predators in any encounter. Maria had turned that assumption into their greatest weakness. Dr. Reed met her at their hidden supply cache in the deepest part of the maze. The scientists had been working on modifying Zephyrian technology to serve human purposes, and his latest creation made Maria smile with anticipation. It was a small device that could disrupt the alien communication networks and create blind spots. In their surveillance system, the jamming field will last for about 20 minutes, Reed explained. That should give you enough time to reach the command center and plant the other devices. Maria's plan was ambitious and dangerous. She intended to infiltrate the heart of the Zephyrian operation and turn their own hunting preserve against them. If successful, she would not only free the human captives, but send a message that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity was not prey for anyone. The command center was located in the largest of the crystalline structures, protected by multiple layers of security and guarded by the most elite Zephyrian hunters. Maria approached it like a military assault, using everything she had learned about stealth, tactics, and alien psychology. She moved through sections of the maze that had been abandoned after her earlier attacks, areas where the Zephyrians no longer dared to hunt. The alien command had unwittingly created safe corridors for her by pulling their forces back from the most dangerous areas. Maria used these paths to get within striking distance of her target. The first security perimeter fell to misdirection. And technology? Maria used modified Zephyrian communication devices to broadcast false signals that drew the guards away from their posts. The second perimeter required more direct action, but she had learned to kill Zephyrians quickly and silently. Hunt Master Vexthera was studying tactical displays when the lights in the command center flickered and went out. Emergency illumination cast eerie shadows across the room as alarms began sounding throughout the facility. The ancient alien commander reached for the communication panel, but found the system dead. "She is here," Vexthera whispered to the empty room. Maria Santos stepped out of the shadows like death itself. She wore salvaged Zephyrian armor and carried their most advanced weapons, but her movements were purely human. She had taken everything the aliens could teach her about hunting and perfected it with human creativity and determination. "Hunt Master Vexthera," Maria said in carefully pronounced Zephyrian. "You wanted to hunt humans. Now you can discover what it feels like to be prey." The final confrontation was brutal and decisive. Vexthera was an ancient and experienced hunter, but had never faced an opponent who combined Zephyrian technology with human tactical thinking. Maria fought like someone with nothing to lose and everything to prove. When it was over, the Hunt Master lay dead, and Maria stood victorious in the heart of the alien hunting preserve. The command center gave Maria access to the entire facility. She released the maze's security locks and opened all the containment. areas freeing dozens of human captives who had been trapped in the hunting preserve for months. She also accessed the Zephyrian communication networks and broadcast a message that would reach every corner of their empire. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the human exploration vessel Endeavour," she announced over the alien communication system. "You hunted us because you thought we were easy prey. You were wrong. Any Zephyrian who threatens human colonies will discover that we can be the most dangerous predators in the galaxy." The freed humans worked together to repair the Endeavour. Using Zephyrian technology, Dr. Reed had learned enough about their systems to get the ship operational, and they had captured enough alien equipment to defend themselves against pursuit. Maria knew that their escape would not end the conflict with the Zephyrians, but it would change the nature of that conflict forever. When they finally reached human space and delivered their report to Colonial Command, Maria's story spread like wildfire across human colonies. The captain who had turned the tables on alien hunters became a legend, proof that humanity could face any challenge and emerge victorious. The Zephyrians never again attempted to hunt humans. Word of Maria's victory had spread throughout their empire, carrying with it a new understanding of what humans were capable of when pushed too far. They had encountered a species that could adapt to any challenge, learn from any enemy, and turn any weapon against its creators. Maria Santos had taught the galaxy an important lesson about humanity. They were not prey animals to be hunted for sport. They were survivors, warriors, and when necessary, the most effective predators the universe had ever seen. The hunt was over, but the legend of the human who hunted the hunters was just beginning. Asterisk.